The moment my son, Daniel, told me I was too old for his 40th birthday party, I felt my heart splinter like the old oak table in my dining room. I'd spent 45 years raising him, wiping his tears, and paying for his dreams, only to hear, "Mom, you just make it awkward." His wife, Lauren, stood behind him, nodding, her manicured nails tapping her phone like she was already planning my exile. I was 72, not dead, but to them, I was a relic, too frail, too wrinkled, too much for their polished guest list. What they didn't know was I'd been hiding a fortune worth $2 million, built from decades of quiet sacrifice. And when they tried to erase me, I decided it was time to rewrite their future. If you're watching this, please subscribe to Granny Untold Stories and drop a comment telling us where you're from and what time it is. We might give you a shout out in our next video. Now, let me tell you what really happened. It started 3 weeks ago, on a crisp October morning in Raleigh, North Carolina. I was in my kitchen, stirring sugar into my coffee, wearing the same floral apron Daniel used to tug at when he was a boy. The phone rang, and his name lit up the screen. I smiled, expecting an invitation to his big 40th bash. He'd been talking about it for months, a fancy affair at their new lakefront house. I'd already picked out a navy dress, modest but elegant, and a silver bracelet for his gift, engraved with "To Daniel, always my star." "Mom," he said, voice clipped, like he was reading a script. "About the party. Lauren and I think it's best if you sit this one out." I froze, the spoon slipping from my hand into the mug. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. It's a younger crowd," he said. "You know, colleagues, friends from the firm. You'd feel out of place. You're, well, getting older, and Lauren's curating a vibe." I looked at the counter, where I'd set out homemade cookies for when he visited. "Daniel, I'm your mother. I want to celebrate with you." He sighed, impatient. "Mom, don't make this hard. Lauren's right, you'd stick out. We'll visit you after, okay?" Before I could respond, Lauren's voice cut in, sharp and cold. "Eleanor, it's about optics. You're not well, and we don't want guests worrying. Maybe consider a retirement community soon? Somewhere cozy for you." The call ended. I stood there, coffee cooling, cookies untouched. My chest tightened, not from my arthritis, but from the sting of their words. Too old. A burden. I'd given Daniel everything, $50,000 for his law school loans, $20,000 for their house down payment, even my late husband's watch for his 30th birthday. And now, I was too old for a party I'd helped make possible. I walked to my living room, sat in my armchair, and stared at the photo of Daniel at 10, grinning with a fishing pole by the lake. Where was that boy? I whispered to the empty room, "You think I'm done, Daniel. But I'm just getting started." I didn't cry that night. I didn't scream or curse. Instead, I pulled out a key from my jewelry box, one I hadn't touched in years. It opened a fireproof safe in my closet, tucked behind winter coats. Inside were documents, deeds to 2 rental properties, bank statements, and a brokerage account summary. My net worth was $2 million, built from 30 years of teaching, scrimping, and investing every extra penny from my late husband's insurance payout. Daniel thought I was just a retired teacher living on a pension. He didn't know about the duplex I bought in 1995, now worth $400,000, or the apartment complex I co-owned, generating $10,000 a month. I'd planned to surprise him with it all, my gift to his future. But now? Now, I had other plans. The next morning, I called my attorney, Margaret Cole, a sharp woman who'd helped me after my husband, Tom, passed. "Eleanor," she said, her voice warm but businesslike, "what's wrong?" I told her everything, Daniel's call, Lauren's nursing home jab, the way they dismissed me. I want to rewrite my will, I said. Daniel gets nothing. Margaret paused. Are you sure? This is big. I looked at the photo of Daniel on my mantle, his law school graduation cap tilted just so. I'm sure, I said. He's made his choice. Margaret arrived that afternoon with a briefcase and a legal pad. We sat at my kitchen table, the same one where Daniel used to do homework. I poured tea, hands steady despite the ache in my joints. I want everything to go to the Raleigh Youth Center, I said. They helped Daniel when he was a troubled teen, tutoring, basketball, mentors. They deserve it more than he does. Margaret nodded, jotting notes. And Daniel? She asked. A letter, I replied. I'll write it myself. He needs to know why. I spent the evening drafting it, pen scratching against paper. Daniel, I gave you my heart, my time, my savings. I thought you'd carry my love forward. But you called me too old, a burden to your perfect party. So now, I'm giving my legacy to those who value it. You get nothing but this truth, you broke my heart, but not my spirit. Goodbye, Eleanor. I sealed it in an envelope, my signature bold despite my trembling hand. But I wasn't done. I called an old friend, Carla, who ran a private investigation firm. I need to know about Daniel and Lauren's finances, I said. Everything. Carla didn't hesitate. Give me 48 hours. I hung up, sipped my tea, and looked out at the streetlight flickering across my quiet cul-de-sac. They thought they could push me out. They didn't know I'd been playing chess while they played checkers. The day of Daniel's party arrived, a Saturday night lit by stars over Lake Jordan. I wasn't invited, but I wasn't staying home. I put on my navy dress, pinned my silver brooch, and drove to their house, parking a block away. The lakefront property gleamed, string lights, a live band, guests in tailored suits and glittering dresses. I stood in the shadows, watching through the wrought iron gate. Daniel was laughing, clinking glasses with colleagues. Lauren, in a red gown, posed for photos, her smile as sharp as her words. Carla's report had come in that morning, and it was worse than I'd imagined. Daniel's law firm was bleeding money, $100,000 in debt from bad investments. Lauren had maxed out 3 credit cards, $60,000 in total, on designer clothes and vacations. They'd taken a second mortgage on the house I'd helped them buy. And the kicker? Lauren had inquired about a $500,000 life insurance policy on me, listing herself as the beneficiary. They weren't just ungrateful, they were desperate. I'd planned my move carefully. Margaret had prepared a new will, notarized and ironclad, transferring my assets to the youth center. She'd also drafted a fake document, a power of attorney giving Daniel access to a dummy bank account with $100. I wanted to see how far they'd go. I called Daniel that morning, voice soft. I've been thinking about what you said. Maybe you're right about a retirement home. I'm updating my will and need your help with some paperwork. His tone shifted instantly, eager. Of course, Mom. Lauren and I can come by tomorrow. I smiled into the phone. No need. I'll bring it to the party. I know I'm not invited, but I want to drop it off quietly. He hesitated, then agreed. Okay, just stay low-key. At the party, I slipped through a side gate, envelope in hand. Guests milled around, oblivious. I found Daniel by the bar, his tie loosened, laughing with a client. Mom, he said, spotting me, his smile faltering. Lauren appeared, eyes narrowing. Eleanor, what are you doing here? I held up the envelope. Just dropping this off. Power of attorney, like we discussed. Daniel's eyes lit up, and Lauren's lips twitched. "Thank you, Mom," he said, taking it. "This means a lot." I nodded, my face calm. "Happy birthday, Daniel." I turned and left, hearing Lauren whisper, "That was easier than I thought." They didn't know the envelope held a fake document. They didn't know I'd already tipped off Detective Sarah Brooks, a friend from my teaching days, about the life insurance inquiry. And they didn't know Margaret was waiting to deliver the real blow. The next morning, Daniel and Lauren arrived at my house, all smiles, carrying a box of pastries as if they hadn't banished me from their lives. "Mom, we opened the paperwork," Daniel said, setting the box on my table. "It's perfect. We'll handle everything for you." Lauren nodded, her eyes gleaming. "We've already looked into a great retirement community. You'll love it." I poured coffee, my hands steady. "Before we finalize anything, I have a surprise." I slid another envelope across the table, this one marked "Last Will and Testament." Daniel frowned. "What's this?" "Open it," I said. He did, and his face drained of color as he read. The will left everything, $2 million, properties, accounts, to the Raleigh Youth Center. A letter was tucked inside. "Daniel, you were my world. I worked nights to pay for your dreams. But you called me too old, a burden to your perfect life. So I'm giving my legacy to those who don't judge me by my wrinkles. You get nothing but this lesson: love isn't a transaction." Lauren's voice was shrill. "This is a joke, right? You can't do this." I met her gaze. "I already did. And by the way, the police are looking into that life insurance policy you inquired about." Daniel's jaw dropped. "What policy?" Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Detective Brooks stood on my porch with a colleague. "Mrs. Eleanor Harris," she said. "We need to speak with Lauren about a fraudulent insurance application." Lauren's face went white. "This is insane." "I didn't." Detective Brooks held up a document. "We have records of your inquiries, Mrs. Harris. And we tested the champagne from last night's party, traces of a sedative. Not enough to kill, but enough to make an elderly woman seem frail." Daniel turned to Lauren, horrified. "You did what?" Lauren stammered. "It was just to calm her, make her agree to the home." I stepped forward, voice steady. "I saw you slip something into my glass last night, Lauren. I switched it with yours. You drank it yourself." The guests at the party had noticed Lauren's dizziness, her stumble. They thought it was too much wine. I knew better. Detective Brooks nodded. "Lauren Harris, you're under arrest for attempted fraud and endangerment." As they cuffed her, Daniel sank into a chair, hands in his hair. "Mom, I didn't know." "I swear." I looked at him, my son, now a stranger. "You knew enough, Daniel. You stood by while she planned to lock me away. You called me too old for your life." His eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry. I was desperate. The firm's failing. We're drowning in debt." "You drowned yourself," I said. "I gave you everything, and you threw me away." 3 months later, I sat on my porch, sipping tea and watching the sunset over Raleigh. Lauren pleaded guilty to fraud, getting 2 years probation. Daniel wasn't charged, but his reputation tanked. Clients dropped him after the scandal went public. The youth center named a new wing after me, funded by my donation. My granddaughter, Lily, called last week. At 12, she's old enough to understand her parents' mistakes. "Grandma Ellie," she said, voice shaky, "can I visit you this summer?" I smiled. I'd love that, sweetheart. I sold the duplex and moved to a smaller cottage by the coast, still in North Carolina. The air smells of salt and pine, and I walk the beach every morning, my cane sinking into the sand. I don't need much, just enough to live, to breathe, to be free. Daniel tried to call once, leaving a voicemail. Mom, I'm so sorry. Can we talk? I didn't call back. He'd learned to live with his choices, just as I'd learned to live with mine. The funny thing about being 72 is everyone thinks you're fragile, ready to fade. They don't see the steel beneath the wrinkles, the fire in your eyes. I'd spent decades building a legacy for my son, but he didn't want me in it. So I gave it to those who did. The youth center kids send me drawings, thank you notes. One wrote, "Miss Eleanor, you're our hero." I'm not a hero. I'm just a woman who refused to be erased. Daniel and Lauren thought they could push me out, lock me away, take what was mine. They didn't know I'd been watching, planning, waiting. Sometimes, the best revenge is living well, living free, living true. I sleep soundly now, my cottage quiet, my heart full. And if Daniel ever wonders where it all went wrong, he can look in the mirror. That's the only inheritance I left him. Thanks for listening to Granny Untold Stories. Don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and tell us, what would you have done? Until next time, keep your heart strong and your eyes sharp.